And yes, losing money. Well, technically not so much losing money. We will recover that when we claim the contract. And it only cost us 100. Anyway, yes. Yeah, I do know pig, I mean, as we found with our sheep on Oakfield, we made more money from sheep sales than we did from wool sales. But pigs are obviously a lot more lucrative because they're designed to be. That's the only way to get income from pigs. The other change for 22 is that horses make babies too. So if we ever get round to owning a horse farm, they will eventually produce. The only thing I'm really concerned with at the moment is what is the capacity of the animal husbandries on this map. Because while most of them can take more than 500 animals each, if the food troughs are too small, you can end up with a situation where you're feeding them multiple times a day just to keep up, and obviously don't want to have to do that.
Bailey actually won the Uno.
She did?
Yeah.
Hold on. You gonna try again?
Yeah. Mommy,
Now, one of the advantages with this Calmsden is I know that the animal feed troughs are big, because a lot of people complained that 30,000 food doesn't last half a day. It's sort of, ooh, whoops. Okay, we are 60% complete. This is good. And as I said, I think this is worth about 13,000, so we should still be around 513,000 and change, I think. And then I think we'll start buying a yard. As I said, the problem with the pig and the cow yard, or the combined pig-cow yard, is it doesn't seem to have a house. So no sleep trigger. Which may mean that buying the arable plot just down the road might be worth it. It then does mean we can keep a fair amount of equipment down at the animal yard, and primarily use the silo there for pig food when we get into pigs. But we can store things like harvesters possibly up at the arable yard. The problem with the arable yard at the moment is it doesn't have good crops next to it, apart from maybe the sunflower crop. Then the question is, do we buy a corn header or a helianthus? With our last farm, we just didn't do corn or soybeans for that matter. But we always did sunflowers, so having the helianthus header made more sense than having a row crop header. But if we decide to go pigs, then I'm probably going to want a corn header, in which case any sunflowers we do, we might as well use the row crop header to do those rather than buying a header specifically for the sunflowers. And then of course with that, there's the whole oil production. We'll have to see. Because obviously productions is now a thing, and you can make a lot of side income on the productions. One of the arguments I made with in favour of them, Arthur was saying that, not sure they're worth it because the income you get from them is not a lot, or not significantly more than you get for selling the crop. And for the simple productions like flour and oil, yes, that's true. You're only making sort of 10-15% more when you take into account how much of the crop may be lost. So you might use 2 litres of canola to make 1 litre of canola oil. So whereas canola oil is worth 2.5 times the value of canola, because you lost 50% of the crop, you're only making an extra 25% on the sale of the canola. However, there is pretty much always 4 or 5 months difference between the harvest period of crop and the best value, sale value of the crop. So if you harvest a crop in September, the best value may be January or February. So you've got to hold that crop somewhere. Well, you can either go and buy yourself a silo, which can cost a lot of money, or you can buy yourself a production facility, which in many cases can cost you less than the silo. Over the 4 or 5 months that you're waiting for the best crop value, you are converting that crop into another thing. So you're converting wheat into flour, or you're converting canola into oil. Now it is costing you a little bit to do that, but typically canola oil value peaks around the same time as canola does. So instead of having canola sitting in an expensive silo for 5 months not doing anything, you can have canola sitting in an oil production facility for 5 or 6 months, costing you a little bit to convert it into canola oil, but then you sell it for a little bit more than you could have sold the canola at the end of that period. So from that point of view, it can be worth considering. Maybe I do want the production facility because it's cheaper than a silo. Now obviously if you're producing a lot of disparate crops, so if you're producing canola and barley and sugar beets, then you need 3 production facilities to work all 3 of them. But if you concentrate and say, I'm just going to grow grains, so I'm going to grow wheat, barley, oats and sorghum, all of which can be converted into flour, it doesn't matter. I can produce, I can grow different crops and still end up with just one production facility for storage of those crops. Now obviously as your farm gets bigger, the production facility's capacity is not going to be as great as the silos that you can buy. you know, I can buy a silo that holds 2 million litres. My production facility can only ever hold 30,000. So either I have to buy more production facilities, or I'm going to have to say, okay, we are going to need a silo on the farm.
Push the button so that way I have so many.
That question does not come up on this map. Every single yard has
Sometimes you do get some.
a good sized silo, I think 800,000 litres, a seed dispenser, a fuel dispenser, solid and liquid fertiliser dispensers. I'm not sure if they do lime as well. Anyway, you've got the dispensers on the yard, on the farm, so you don't have to concern yourself with having, because you have the silo on the farm, you don't have to worry quite so much about having to store, having to pay out some money in order to store the crop that you just harvested.
Yeah. So, it was my turn, so I'm going to take all these.
Yes, that much I would agree with. But there's nothing to stop you. If you're doing a start from scratch on a raw farmyard, so there isn't buildings there, there is a choice. Do I want to buy a silo, or do I want to buy a grain mill? And the grain mill's cheaper than the silo, typically, unless you're using a mod, in which case, mod silos can be incredibly cheap. I think that's probably good. I mean, we can look at that. That's the wrong button. If we go down to construction, and what is it? Silos. That's 117,000 and holds 400,000 litres. I think the ones we have on the farm are probably these or these. I'm not sure, but still, you're talking a good size silo is going to cost you money. These cost tons. However, if you go to productions and just say I'm going to buy a grain mill, it's 96,000. Now it only stores 30,000 litres, possibly, but if all you're producing is 30,000 litres or less of crop, then you don't need a 400,000 litre silo on your farm. So maybe buying one production facility is an alternative to buying a farm silo. Now obviously if you want to buy chicken, or if you want to do chickens, you're going to need the silo, because you're going to need to keep their food somewhere. But outside of that, if all you're doing is arable farming and planting crops, harvesting crops, which typically you're going to be doing at the beginning, it's something to think about. It's an alternative. It's not necessarily absolutely the way to go, but it's something to think about. Now I tend to go, I think they're the Meridian silos, these ones, which you need to buy the separate augers for, but they're much bigger for a lower cost. But also you need a farmyard that will take them. But since, as I said, since on this map all of the yards are developed, you have sheds, you have all the storages, you have the animal husbandries, there really is no need to, there's no need to get into productions early, and we can look at that later. And of course the cheating method is to buy a ton of grains wait till the price at the grain mill is good, go and sell them your grain, and then go and buy the grain mill, because you inherit everything from it. Same with contracts. Do a contract, deliver the grain to the grain mill if that's where the contract calls for it to do, and then buy the grain mill, and you inherit all of the grain in the grain mill and make a load more money from it. And during my early tests of Farm Sim 22, that is something I tried out, and does work quite nicely. Especially if you deliver enough grain, the grain sale could end up completely covering the cost of purchasing the production facility. Means the farm's not going to expand, but it means you get all of the grain you just delivered back, and it now converts into something else that's more valuable, and that you can then sell and grow the farm a little bit quicker, a little bit later. Anyway, little patch we missed there. I am not going to concern myself with that. We pretty much know that we get to the end of ploughing this. We're not going to get to the end of ploughing the field and the contract's going to be complete. Don't even know how far we got. Oh, we're 3/4 of the way in. Oh, yeah, and yes, I agree, there is that. Unless you buy another yeah, you purchase a sell point. It's one of the ones I did download it. I don't think I added it to this map, but there is a farm productions mod, which I believe has a single production point with multiple productions and a farm shop. That was something for Calmsden I was considering, so that I believe the production rate is slower than grain mill produces much faster than the farm production, but the farm production does many things. I think Virtual Farmer on Oberon is currently using a windmill that is effectively a grain mill and oil mill combined.
I need to shake something.
I don't know how the production rate compares with a pure grain mill or oil mill,
That one
but
needs he does two more
yeah.
Marky's so close to winning.
Yeah.
It's a production that
Yeah, that's all
does
he has
all of the
left.
things.
Kate's helping him.
And I don't know what this map's like either. Because I haven't, obviously. I did the game setup, so yesterday evening I took about half an hour, actually it says 14 minutes, but about half an hour, preparing the map and selecting all of the mods I wanted to include, or at least from the initial outset. And I'll tell the truth here, some of the mods I just wanted to add so that they might end up in the store sale on day one. Turns out none of them did, but it was sort of like, these are the mods I kind of would like to have, but there's no way I can afford them yet. And then there were other mods that I kind of want to have available because I happen to like playing with them.
Just got two more and it's green.
So I've got most of the giants,
Just got two more.
Vicon, Cavernland stuff. I didn't include the TMR mixers from the Anderson, or what was the Anderson pack in 19. But that's because I knew all of the cowsheds on this map are auto feeders, so we're never going to be producing TMR from a mixer. anyway. I think I'm pretty much... Oh, look. That's completed. We now have a cultivating contract and a fertilizing contract, but you can see the value of these contracts is relatively small. Unlike Calmsden, where you're looking at contracts at 30,000 payout when you're done, but obviously it takes substantially longer to complete each of them. But also, past midday. Oh, look. A Wilson animal trailer. That's nice. Not going to buy it. Because we've already found that this tractor has problems on this road for width. Taking that thing round corners is not going to work out too well.
A wild, and I laid it down, and then I said green, and then I laid down a green. Kate said I didn't win. Did I win?
I think you have to wait until your next turn to lay down your Christmas card. So you lay down the wild and you change the color. And then when it comes to you again, then you lay down your last card.
Yeah. Anyway, so we got Wilson trailer. Don't need that.
Here, give me a hug. I think
I'm not going to use that. We do have access to the JCB Teletruck, which is a mod. Which is, it uses skid steer attachments. It's kind of like a forklift, but the boom extends. So it's sort of a very, very, very stable small telehandler.
If there's a changing room there, then I can try them on.
I think there might be.
Anyway, we will...
We're good with that because you need some. That doesn't.
When are we going?
That is done. And after lunch.
When Daddy's done.
Half hour till lunch.
But if you want to do that, and Kate
So we got...
doesn't want to play me anymore. Well, it's going to play around with me because of her. Well, me and Kate is going to play around.
So we're going to do probably another 30 minutes. We're going to get this contract done. I'll probably buy the land. And once we've bought the land that I think we want, I may take a look at some basic starting equipment. We're not going to buy everything. We're just going to look at a few things. So potentially, there's a fertilization contract, so maybe buying a sprayer would be a plan, and a tractor that I can run it on. But then we'll kind of stop there. We are going to need to fertilize things. We're definitely going to need a soil sampler, although again, two options there. We could rent it, or we could just pay for a geologist to come in and analyze the dirt and be done. It's more expensive to pay for the geologist to visit than it is to take your own samples and send them out. But it does mean it gets done immediately.
They actually can scare you with
And
a little bit.
a long hauler again. Stopped lurking, huh? Yeah, as I said, I don't use it frequently. I mean, you look at how many tractors I had GPS on in Oakfield Farm, and how many times I actually used it. I didn't bother with it in the harvester, although harvester it can help with. Even if you don't use it religiously, it can help where you're doing a sort of a midfield cut in to make sure that you're cutting in on the most efficient row you can, and then each time you run up and down the field you don't end up with a tiny little sliver of crop that still needs to be harvested. But a lot of the time I'm doing everything eyeball. Obviously this tractor does have GPS, but I'm not using it.
I think it'd be really pretty painted.
Because it's fairly easy to keep the tractor fairly well centered. Obviously there's a few bits I messed up, but that's because I wasn't monitoring the situation. I was browsing the short store or whatever. But definitely GPS is much of a help. I actually used it more frequently before I started streaming. I found that I would watch YouTube videos, and I've got a two PC setup. I've got my work PC and my personal PC, but I would have the work PC would be streaming videos off of YouTube, and in order to do stuff on the farm I would run GPS, primarily because it tweets at the end of the row. So if you've got the volume turned up high enough, I would just put it down, I'd put it on cruise control, GPS on, and whoops, and the tractor would just drive down the field, and when it got to the end it would tweet, so I could look up, turn the tractor around, re-engage GPS, and then go back to watching the video. Obviously streaming I can't watch videos, so I tend to use it a little bit less. Also there's the whole, I got really used to using it in Farm Sim 17. Farm Sim 19 comes out and it's like, oh, I don't have GPS, I have to do everything by hand, eye coordination. And so when that happened, for the most part, while I do have the mod loaded, I don't install it on stuff, because when Farm Sim 19 came out, there was quite a delay before GPS came out, and by the time it did, it's sort of, well, actually I'm kind of used to driving without the assistance. And the only exception I made was my fertilization equipment needs GPS because I can't see the ground. And then precision farming comes out, and it's sort of, I don't need to see the ground because the mini-map shows me where I've been. So we're back there again. Oh, don't do that. Yeah, now I think one of the things I was talking about last week was sprayers.
Again, my canvas. Did you know these are called canvas?
Oops, back.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah, these do not have the spray modifier. Wheel setup. Do like that one. The Cavernlands have the weed spot spraying. Costs 39,000. Is exactly the same as the See and Spray, and costs the same on the JD. So you don't have to have the JD sprayer to do the